Many Americans feel that despite the official story, Washington higher-ups were behind the IRS targeting of conservative groups. 2/3 of those interviewed in our new Fox News polls feel that way. Just 23% accept the idea that lower-level staff at the IRS were responsible solely. Tonight, Chief National Correspondent Jim Angle looks at the timeline of what happened.
Months before the 2010 elections, the IRS started throwing up obstacles to conservative groups applying for tax-exempt status, closely investigating groups with Tea Party, Patriot, or other keywords in their names. By July of 2010, the unit in charge of tax-exempt designations was told, quote, to be on the lookout for Tea Party applications. And at the same time, President Obama was criticizing conservative groups that already had tax-exempt status.
A lot of attack ads run by shadowy groups with harmless-sounding names. We don't know who's behind these ads, and we don't know who's paying for them.
A month later, the president was even more pointed.
It is the most insidious power grab since the monopolies of the Gilded Age.
A month after that, even harsher terms.
This is not just a threat to Democrats, this is a threat to our democracy.
He knew that these groups were operating on the left, and yet he depicted conservative groups as being a threat to democracy. When he did that, and was backed up by this chorus, this amen chorus of Democrats, it's like a bunch of people blowing a dog whistle, and people inside the IRS, in my opinion, heard it.
By January of 2012, IRS criteria for targeting conservative groups have been broadened to, quote, political action type organizations involved in limiting, expanding government, educating on the Constitution and Bill of Rights. Tea Party groups had long complained about IRS obstacles along with improper demands such as donor lists.
Organizations do not have to disclose donor information. I knew that. Why don't they?
It wasn't until May of 2013, with an Inspector General's report coming, that Lois Lerner, who later took the fifth to avoid testifying before Congress, confessed the IRS had gone too far.
I think the IRS would like to apologize for that. It was not intentional.
But she argued the targeting was done only because workers were overwhelmed.
We saw a big increase in these kinds of applications.
There are several categories of tax-exempt organizations, but a key designation sought by Tea Party groups and others, a status called 501c4, did not surge at the time the IRS started targeting them in 2010. In 2009, there were 1,751 applications. In 2010, a drop to 1,735. In 2011, a small increase to 2,265. And in 2012, they rose about 1,000 to 3,357. Officials in Washington insisted the improper practices originated with workers in Cincinnati.
People in Cincinnati decided, let's start grouping these cases. Let's centralize these cases. The way they centralized it, troublesome.
But workers in Cincinnati told congressional investigators they were guided by IRS officials in Washington.
Well, we know that it was coming from the headquarters of the IRS in Washington, D.C. The people in the headquarters unit of the tax-exempt bureau were calling people in Cincinnati saying, get us files.
And one Cincinnati worker confirmed that, saying she had to send information to Washington on Tea Party applications, and said she was furious when they tried to pass the blame, saying it was like a nuclear strike on us. Brett?
Jim, thank you.